Welcome to the Life Success and Legacy Podcast. We're glad you're here, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey everybody, we want to welcome you back to the next episode of the Life Success Legacy Podcast. I am Chris Bay, joined by two of our Mikes and one of our Haleys. Hi,
There we
guys
go.
and gals. Haley, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. For our listeners and watchers, you have probably seen an interview with Haley about her experience with infinite banking and how she's grown and developed her strategy. And she's an important piece of this conversation because of her relationship with who we're going to talk about today, which is Mike Kwong. So we thought it might be kind of fun. Mike Kwong is not with us today. He's actually very involved with college planning for Mike and Pay's daughter Jackie, and so we thought it might be kind of fun to talk about Mike when he's not here to defend himself.
Oh,
so
gosh.
I look forward. I wish I could watch Mike Kwong watch this recording. That would be entertaining for sure. So hey guys, how are y'all?
Good.
Doing great.
Doing great.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks for joining today. So what we want to do today is actually give our listeners a view of how we got to know Mike, and we'll talk about Mike and Pay, his wife Pay, but specifically focusing on Mike and how we got to know them, and then how Mike became a part of Life Success and Legacy, and then really how he has kind of become a point person for our passive income, our clients who are interested in passive income, and the qualities and the skill sets and his education and his background experience, all that came together where, I don't know what you guys would say, but in my mind, I can't think of another human being on the planet that was more aptly suited for this role with an LSL.
No,
I agree.
Couldn't agree more.
I mean, it's like there was an old movie Mike Everett might remember. Crawford might, because he likes watching retro stuff sometimes. There was an old movie, I can't remember the name, where these two teenagers somehow designed like their perfect image of a woman.
Weird Science.
Weird Science. Thank you,
That's
Crawford.
right.
It's like LSL did their own version of Weird Science to design this guy. But like every other piece of LSL, it wasn't necessarily where we went out and created it. It was, oh, this person showed up, and then we morphed into how we could take advantage of that, right? So Mike Everett, do you recall your first interaction with Mike and Pay and how you got to know them?
I do. So I remember getting a call, and Mike and Pay were always on the phone together. Yes. I mean, when I say, Pay was doing most of the talking, as you can only imagine, but Mike called me, and he basically introduced himself and let me know that he had been an agent with another company maybe 4 or 5, 6 years prior to that phone call, but they had found us on our podcast. And we talked a little bit about the podcast, and then all of a sudden, I mean, in the midst of this conversation, he said he wanted to do new policies. I mean, he'd listened to our conversation. We didn't really have an ultra process yet, but yet we were getting started in this process of what we do today. And so we kind of embarked on this journey of doing, utilizing his existing policies and starting anew. Pretty simple. Okay. And you could tell immediately his intensity, his education level of what he knew, what he wanted to really commit to and get out of IBC, but yet you could see that his interest about what we were doing was very, very high.
Yeah.
So you know, we just kind of embarked on the new policies. And, you know, there's another part of that story that I'm sure that we'll be able to fill in the blanks as we go down the road here. But it was really great because you could tell he was just, he was jovial, he was fun. His wife did 90% of the talking. But, you know, it was just a great start of this relationship now that we have today.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I remember correctly, they got those policies. Mike got licensed when they were living in Hawaii.
That's correct.
And I remember from a previous podcast, Mike Crawford, this goes way back in our podcast archives of the interview with Mike and Pay, the original one.
Oh yeah, pre-COVID.
But I think they got these policies, and he had to almost tell those agents how to design the policy.
Yes,
and
he did.
I think at some point the agent said, "Why don't you just get licensed and design your own?"
Yeah.
And I think that's what got him originally licensed.
I think that's exactly right.
I think he let his license lapse for a period of time.
He did.
At some point, yeah.
Right.
So they were in Hawaii at the time. So why were they in Hawaii? So Mike, who was born in the Philippines, he was raised in Florida, and then when as becoming an adult, he was in the Navy because he wanted to go, if I remember correctly, language school and learn Chinese.
Yes.
And so he was stationed at a variety of different places, Hawaii being one of them. And this is a key piece to this story, actually. So that's where he got licensed and started their own policies. But we're going to talk about a company named Tardis here in a little bit, which many of our clients are familiar with, especially those pursuing passive income. Tardis was based in Hawaii. And they started learning about this income snowball concept, and Pay actually for a short bit, well, I don't actually know how long, was a Tardis coach. And they started implementing the income snowball into their own plan using IBC and income snowball. And they started learning about these two concepts and how, wow, these two concepts individually are amazing concepts, right? So that's how all this kind of stuff happened out in Hawaii, right? Yeah. So let's fast forward then. We become their coaches, and we start developing a relationship. And at some point, Mike Kwong learns that there's something called an associate coach. And he's like, well, I'd like to do that. So he gets licensed, and he starts, because he is an educator, right? We'll talk about his background and all the different factors that come into making him so effective at what he does. So Mike and Pay both were educators. I believe Mike was an English as a second language teacher, which makes sense with his language school in the Navy and all that. And they have done a variety of things, but they started building their IBC system and their income snowball. And Mike got licensed to be a associate coach with us. So he starts telling and teaching other people about infinite banking and sending them to us.
Yeah.
But Crawford, he wasn't your typical associate coach, would you say?
No, he was so much more like involved, and like his group of contacts, like, you know, all of us have like our circles, you know, and the people that we know. And Mike and Pay, because of their travels and they're just outgoing and like bigger than life personalities, both have like such large circles that span well beyond whatever state they choose to live in. And, you know, that to me was like apparent from the beginning. You know, they weren't going to be our normal associate coach team.
No, not at all. So Mike starts, you know, referring people to us, and we're taking them through the process. And if I'm skipping some pieces here, chime in, but we joked it was about 2 years later. And we're seeing very clearly that he is serving and reaching out to a population that we would not normally get to talk to or would approach us. The other side of that is he has a skill set and an experience base that was different than the rest of our team. And that's one of the criteria we look at if we choose to bring somebody on is, they've got to be a client first. They've got to somehow add to what LSL already has, or add to what we have, but add something new and different that maybe
Yeah.
we see as an advantage.
A
right?
unique skill set.
So I recall having a conversation with Mike Kwong, and this is after we've all kind of talked. And I said to Mike, I said, have you ever considered like increasing your relationship with LSL and maybe even becoming a team member? And in total Mike Kwong fashion, because he's kind of understated, he's introverted unless he's teaching a concept. That's where
That's right.
he is a classic teacher, right? You give him content and he is nailing it.
You go.
And he said, Chris, I've always wanted to be a part of the team. And I said, well, why didn't you say something?
Yeah.
And it was kind of deadpan too. Just kind of.
Yeah.
I
Like,
remember the first team
didn't you
meeting.
know?
Even keel.
Yeah. When he joined one of the first team meetings before you guys had that conversation, I remember this vividly. We don't have a lot of extra people join our Monday strategy sessions. I mean, those are our core team meetings, right?
Right.
And we had a couple of his clients that we were reviewing strategies for, and Chris and Mike had decided to invite Kwong to this, discussion. It made perfect sense, right? And he's on the meeting, and we hadn't had to discuss, or you guys hadn't discussed with him joining the team like directly yet. But I remember after he jumped off, because he only stayed on for his people, and then he was like, "I'm out. I don't want to hear the rest of it. I don't care at this point." He had no reason to stay on.
Right.
We all just went, I think all of us on that call, the four of us, it would have been, Chris, Mike, Shelly, and myself at that time. We all looked at each other and went, huh. Did that make sense? Like that seems like that's a good fit, right? And I think it was within a month of that initial team meeting that he had joined where you had that separate discussion where he was like, well, yeah, I guess I just thought I was always on track for that.
Yeah. Like he had it in his mind, but he hadn't told the rest of us.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, hey, clue us in there, Kwong. Come on, buddy. So Haley, I'm trying to recall, did you get to know Mike and Pei before or after his book Dibs came out?
It was about to be released. I think they gave me one of the first original copies, and it wasn't with that cover. I'm trying to remember what book they actually gave me, because I met them, I can't remember the year, but it was in Texas. I was living in Texas for a short stint, and I was about to leave Texas, and I got to meet them, and so I was a little bummed that I was leaving them. But yeah, no, I'm glad that relationship had continued, but it was right before that book was released.
So Haley, I want to come back to you and your experience in being in their home and their groups that would gather. And we've all been in their home and we've had hot pot and, shared meals and things like that. And Crawford, you were talking about like their community builders.
Oh yeah.
They love community and sharing, and there are no boundaries to that.
No.
Geographical or otherwise.
No.
So
they will travel for friends.
They do travel for friends. That's right. So Haley, I'm imagining like when you first walked into their home and you see, like, I'm imagining their dining room, what would be their dining room on the left and that wall of information. Can you just paint a picture for our listeners? Like, what's it like walking into their home and how those conversations start and what those group dynamics are like?
I mean, when you first walk in, it's right there. And so that's an instant conversation.
What's right there?
A whiteboard, a big old whiteboard, all the books, like Pei's writing on the wall, or on the whiteboard. So yeah, it's a definite conversation starter. The second you walk in, you're just like, what is this? What's going on in your minds? Like both of them. It's a beautiful thing.
I don't want to know.
Right.
Mike Everett, we got to have several lovely times in their home. What do you recall from those experiences where Mike and Pei welcomed us into their home?
Well, first of all, they're warm. their attention to you being a part of everything that's going on in their home. And of course, I remember the first thing Mike Kwong did was he took me into his office, which was really just a room right there by the kitchen. And he goes,
that Haley was describing.
Yeah. He said, dude, check this out. This is where I hang out all the time. I mean, he was excited, in a different way that I had seen him, because now all of a sudden we were getting to physically be together in that room where all of his IBC and passive income magic happens, which is super fun because Mike is so reserved. And you use the word understated. He's so below the line, but yet his intelligence level, his education level, all of the initials that he's got with his MBA, et cetera, he's got so much going on in that beaner. It is unbelievable. And we only get a fraction of it sometimes.
Yeah.
But yet, as we were and I'm backing up a second, when we realized what he was going to bring to the table for our team, it was like several Grand Slam home runs in a row.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little.
One of the things really quick, I just want to touch on that same experience I had when walking into their home for that first time. And they've since moved, and I don't think that's private because of their Dibs group. Everybody kind of knows that. But when you walked into their home, being with them in person felt so much different. And that was my first, November of 2023 was my first time meeting Pei in person. Or both of them in person, I guess. Now that I'm really thinking about it, I'm not sure if I would have met Mike anywhere else either.
I don't think you had.
But at either rate, or in either way, just walking into their house, the feeling that you got, but also you could tell immediately that these are people that like physical contact. And I don't just mean hugs, I mean presence. Like being in and around, like this environment here that we're on, that's fine. It's what we do because we can't always all be together. And it is what it is. But let me tell you, there is some energy level that is cranked up to 11 when you're in a room with those two. It's not the same.
It isn't the same. I agree.
So Haley, you said that you got to meet them right around the time that Mike was going to be releasing his book. So for those of you who have not read Mike Kwong's book, Dibs on Your Money, you can see all those letters after his name, the JD, the MBA, the Masters of Education. The guy's highly educated, highly intellectual. He wrote this book. As educated as he is, and sometimes when he talks, I have to look up words he uses. But he is such a good teacher that this book is so easy to digest.
Yeah,
he wrote it specifically for their teenage daughter originally, to explain what they have learned and how they've implemented these concepts. And so for people who are out there and they're like, oh my gosh, this seems intimidating, it's gonna be high. No, he wrote this for a high school kid. It is worth the read. So anyway, Haley, so you got to meet them right around the time that this was happening. And I can't help but think about your financial literacy and how it has evolved over the years. And then what role have Mike and Pei played in that development for you?
Yeah, when I met them for the first time, I think it was Pei. She just pulled the book out of her purse and was just like, here. And I'm like, ooh, what is this? And, and I was really excited. And I was like, I can have this, really? And they're like, yeah, read it. And so I was very appreciative of that. But if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, honestly. And I think the whole agency can say that in a way too, because I will forever be grateful for the fact that they kind of put the IBC and the income snowball, they were able to mirror it, and it just the way that it has expanded not only my knowledge about money and my finances and about my future, I still have that sense of security, and it's fun, but most of all, it's the community that they've been able to bring together. And I think that me personally, I will always be grateful for that. I think the agency will, and the community.
So before we get too far along here, I remember reading this book. In fact, I did it the same exact way that I did Nelson's book. I read it really fast the first time. And then I went through, and of course, anybody who knows me knows that I spend a whole lot of time either highlighting or underlining. I have just a gaggle of stuff underlined in this book. And the minute I got done with this book, I called Kwong. I said, Kwong, I said, I'm getting ready to make a big, bold statement right here. So anybody who knows me knows that I love this book. I love this book. I've chewed it up, I've spit it out, I've chewed it up again and spit it out again. Mike's book mirrors Nelson's teaching. I mean, it is hand in hand. Nelson's book is so easy to understand, so easy to digest, so easy for me to be able to take the information, the concepts, and be able to apply it relatively quickly.
Yep.
This book right here takes it to an all new level.
Mm-hmm.
It is deep, it is thoughtful, but it is simple. And that's what makes the meshing of IBC and DIBS, the passive income, the income snowball, so incredible together.
I know from conversations with Mike Kwong how nervous he was about, and anytime you put something out there in print, you know, that's revealing. It's very vulnerable. And especially when you are representing, and he honors, I think, both concepts and the originators of these concepts very well. So we have always said we are not income snowball coaches. We don't want to be income snowball coaches. Tardis and their group, Tanisha and Chris Souza and their group at Tardis, they are the experts on this. Okay. If you want to know income snowball, they are your coaches. Pay for the coaching, get the coaching. We do. It's worth it. We don't want to do that. We're not the experts in that. They have the patent on the calculator, the whole deal. Mike wanted to honor that. He also wanted to honor and represent Nelson Nash and the infinite banking concept. So you have two organizations that are established, and he is quite delicately trying to say, these are two amazing concepts. And oh, by the way, there's a way to blend them seamlessly and gain the great qualities of both. And that is what DIBS is, you know, that dynamic income, what's he call it? Dynamic income banking system.
That's it.
Taking these two concepts and blending them together. And I just think he did a fantastic job in a very humble, honoring way, but to share this message with others that they kind of figured out in their own lives.
Well, and I think that is a representation of who he is as a human.
There you go.
It's not necessarily that he is putting on airs in order to put out a book that is humble and, you know, genuine. It's just who he is, and it's who Pei is, and it's what they've created. And this is the reason that people will literally fly from the corners of this country to Houston, Texas for a 4-hour seminar.
That's it.
Yeah, we filled up a banquet room.
It was unbelievable.
Because of Mike and Pei.
That's it.
People coming to meet them, and it was almost like a reunion. You know, these people had connected online, and we were going to be there. LSL was going to be there, but it was also an excuse for the community to all come together. And they had gatherings outside of our boot camp.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So, Haley, back to you. You were at that event down in Houston. And can you kind of describe some of the outside of the boot camp gatherings, like the dinners that we had, and just the what it felt like? Paint a picture for people of what it felt like to be in those groups.
You wanted to be there. Everybody wanted to be there and stay for as long as they wanted. Like nobody wanted to leave. It was just so energizing to be around like-minded individuals and all the food. I mean, if you follow if you follow Pay on social media, every meetup there's a whole spread, and they definitely know how to get people together.
Yeah, I could take a lesson or two.
Mike Everett, those settings are your bread and butter. You love groups of people that you haven't met before. Just talk about some of the people that you got to meet during that Houston trip and what it was like interacting with them.
Well, you know me. You call me the flitter. I flitter and flutter around in a group like that, and it is really my forte. I loved being there, meeting, all of the different people, and they know who they are. But it was an awesome time to connect with Mike's Dibs family, and literally not only his Dibs family. These people are all IBC clients.
Yeah.
And, this will sound kind of crazy, but, a lot of the people who have talked to all of us online, phone, Zoom, etc. I felt that the LSL group were like celebrities there, because these are people who IBC has revolutionized, along with the Dibs, their entire financial picture. And well, you guys know I love feeling like a celebrity, but but yet those were the people that were warm. They were caring. They were interested. They were asking question after question after question. And getting back to that spread that was in the kitchen, do you remember, Crawford, when we walked in? My eyes, as we walked through the kitchen, my eyes kept getting bigger and bigger, because I looked at the amount of work, the amount of care that went in for the preparation of that, because it was like, and I thought, man, these people care a lot about people.
Yeah.
In order to make that happen. And, I think about, I'm going to brag a little bit on LSL right now. Our team and the Dibs people, the TARDIS people, are so perfectly suited for each other because of the care and the concern. We call it trusting long-term relationships. That to me tells me everything.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's really cool. If I can find a photo of that spread, I'm going to put it on the YouTube, because let me tell you, words do not describe that spread. But,
it was unbelievable.
It was ongoing. It was insane.
Yeah. And, Mike, I'll echo a little bit of like your emotion. My wife, Mary, went with us on this trip. And, she's heard me talk about Mike and Pay. She's probably even heard Mike's voice on a podcast that I made her listen to. She's an introvert. She was a little overwhelmed with all the people. But you know what? One of the things that she took away from that weekend was that she was literally like blown away at their generosity. And I don't mean just the food, that was impeccable, right? But she was just like, she was genuinely sad not to have spent more time with them. Like, you know, and I think that that's a very telling thing for a person who really didn't know them other than me talking about them. I can
That's
build
right.
all I want, but once you've had that opportunity to meet those two, it will change something.
Yeah.
Well, as we've said, Mike and Pei are a team. They're a dynamic duo. Pei is not officially, you know, a part of Life Success and Legacy and doesn't want to be. She wants to do her own thing.
She can't be tied down.
She can't be tied down.
I can relate.
But the way they operate, they are a dynamic duo, and so they operate together in how they are supporting that DIBS group.
Mhm.
So we always say, and I'll remind people, infinite banking does 4 things. Okay.
Mhm.
Number 1, it's eliminate outside debt rapidly. Number 2, as Nelson would call it, your warehouse of wealth. It's where we build up inside our IBC policies. It's where we build up, we control our capital, we get 3 uses of those dollars, and then from there we can deploy it to do anything we want, whether it's financing college tuition, vehicles, vacations, investments, whatever it is you want to do with it, right? The third one is passive income.
Yep.
And then the fourth is the tax-free wealth transfer. But that third one, that passive income, for years, Mike Everett, I mean, we taught infinite banking and we focused on eliminating outside debt for people. And then we kind of said, okay, passive income, go at it. And we really didn't, we will only refer people to organizations that we have a high level of trust
Yep.
in the
Yep.
organization or the concept. And to be honest, we just didn't have that.
Yeah.
But as Mike Kwong became a part of the team, and many of us started our own income snowballs and having experience with TARDIS and the coaching and seeing how these can blend together in a DIBS fashion, this piece became very clear.
It did.
And so again, Mike and Pei, Mike Kwong specifically is our point person at Life Success and Legacy. Others of us can talk about it as well. We have our own experience and everything. But Mike Kwong is so perfectly suited as that point person for that. And then, you know, Pei is just this energetic, gregarious person online. She's a galvanizer. We talk
She is.
about Mike Everett's a galvanizer. Pei is a galvanizer. She brings people together and gets them excited about the possibilities. And she does that kind of on her own side in social media and such.
Yeah.
So anything else that pops to mind that you guys want to share before we tie a bow on this package? All good? Okay.
Yeah.
So to both Mike and Pei, we love you guys and we're grateful for you. And it's really fun to have this non-roast of you. We didn't go all Tom Brady on you. It's been really fun to talk about our experience with you, how much we appreciate you, how much we value you both. And we are so grateful that you are part of the family here at Life Success Legacy. So thank you. Yeah. To our listeners, if you have not read Mike's book, I'm going to grab it again.
I am too.
Dibs on Money, or even you know, your kids, especially if they're in their teen years. It is a great way to build financial literacy, even if it's the early chapters learning about different kinds of debt and so forth. But then he introduces infinite banking, and then he introduces the income snowball and how all of this can fit together. So for those of you that this is a new concept to, the breadcrumbs have been laid out for you. All you have to do is go and pick up the breadcrumbs. So you can get a copy of DIBS on Amazon. If you prefer not to order from Amazon, you can also get it off of our website. Our shipping department, otherwise known as Mike Everett, will get it to you ASAP.
Comes right out of this here closet.
We'll get you a copy of DIBS, and we do recommend read the book. We recommend we have a link to a video where Mike Kwong and I explain how the income snowball works. And then if you'd like to have a conversation with Mike Kwong, we can get that set up. We will tell you he's a busy man. And so we do ask you, as you know, to have some skin in the game and do your learning before you come to meet with us on
There
this
you
topic.
go.
But eventually what we're going to do is we're going to connect you with our friend Sharon at Tardis, who's a client at LSL.
Yeah.
And she will take great care of you and get you placed with a Tardis coach if you're interested in learning about the income snowball and then pulling it all together in the format of DIBS.
Yep.
So, all right, check us out at our website, lifesuccesslegacy.com. Give us the thumbs up, the likes, the attaboys, all the stuff you're supposed to do. And share the message, spread the message to your family, friends, coworkers, etc. And we will catch you on the next episode of Life Success Legacy Podcast. Haley, shout out to you. Thanks for joining us today.